Azoi, she's had a really, really very blessed life, and this is actually Nachum how she would have written the script if someone had asked her.
How old is she?
Just turned 93, at which point, still driving, no AIDS, no walker, no cane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just came back from Israel from a great grandchild's
AIDS?
bar mitzvah.
Why would she have AIDS?
You know, a lot of these people, they get these, not AIDS, A with an E at the end. No, with an E at the end.
I'm like a 90-year-old, she get AIDS? That doesn't make sense.
She had a series of strokes, and she had some undetermined neurologic illness that we Pasha don't understand.
Nothing you're painting in here? Great. That's great. I think you have a favor, but no, I'm not painting it. So we're not painting it. No, no.
2, 3, 2.
Oh, now you're talking. Before you
2,
were.
2, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2, 2, 3,
All right.
2, 5, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2, 2, 5, 3, 2, 5, 3.
See da 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 da. See da da da. It's none of my department.
Hi, the night I guess was quiet. So, okay. Okay, so I've actually been doing some thinking this morning because I woke up, more clear-headed on the reason was, hopefully. So I actually want to convene a little bit of a meeting of the first generation plus you and Ben, or Ben has to stay in the room plus you, because but I think about some of the challenges that are lying ahead. That, correct. So I want to talk about that and just kind of develop.
Just so you know, you're live.
Oh,
It's okay.
I just want to talk about some of those challenges. But before I talk,
It's too many for me.
your mother-in-law and
Give me a few.
I just wanted to run through it with you lunch.
What are you playing now?
This morning is my last chance.
What? I told him. He said you have it in the car. It's in my car.
I just finished up.
I don't know what I'm waiting. So bring it in here?
Now, which will take me till about.
Tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow's no shit, okay.
My stuff's pretty much packed.
That's fine.
I'm gonna go home, just pack up my things, get in the car, and I should be in the hospital like 20 after 8 or something like that. I want to really, I actually have to see a couple of people, so if I can get in touch with you before that, just keep briefing you. So, no, I'll call you when I'm in the hospital or something like that. You said also, I'm gonna, even though they do get like a dog's call, like, I'm gonna always tell you to go to Starbucks, do you and Ben with some.
What is your car for?
So, why don't you text me
What
what
are
you
they doing?
guys, it's the two of you, right? You were the team last night, right? So, and everybody else is happy, I think, with the Dunkin' Donuts. So why don't the two of you, why don't you text me what you'd like from Starbucks? And including the size, the condiments, so to speak, etc. And figure I'll be there around 8:20, but I really want to talk about the days ahead. And there's some potential really big obstacles. Assuming if the status goes, which it really might, and that's what I'm sort of thinking about. Okay, so I will talk to you around 8:30 or so. Around 8:30, and text me what you guys would like from Starbucks. All right, bye. Bye. So someone was, I'm sorry.
I've been taking a baby aspirin for years.
Okay, have you had a stroke, a heart attack, a stent, or any of those things? Okay, do you have diabetes?
Yes.
How long?
It's under control.
How many years have you been diabetic for?
for years.
Just
No,
through the-
I'm not technically diabetic
Okay,
because
your blood pressure, your blood sugar is now normal. Okay, do you have high blood pressure?
yeah, but it's under control.
Okay. How old are you?
Medication.
How old are you?
72.
Do you exercise at all?
Yes.
Okay, so I would say for you, and you feel well, no chest pain, anything like that? I mean, nothing consistent, everybody can have a chest pain here and there, but you have no chest pain pattern or syndrome or anything like that, like, okay. I would say you should, have you ever had an ulcer or stomach bleeding or stomach reflux or acid reflux? I would say the evidence at this point does not suggest any benefit versus risk to you from aspirin, I would not take it anymore. I would stop, I mean, that's what the recommendations are.
But I saw something, if you stop cold, it could
Oh,
have
please, an echte getuig.
It doesn't mean anything.
No, you could stop aspirin. If you want that. It's a theory, I've only seen it happen one time in 40 years, right? So to take it every other day for a week or two and then stop. It's a long-acting medicine anyway, so. But before I leave today, make sure I take your insurance information. We just had a consultation. I work for Columbia. They watch everything I do. They're practically monitoring every conversation I have. They're watching every minute of the
Literally?
time. Oh, it's unbelievable. They're like,
Watching
how many RVUs, how many patients they saw. They are just.
That's what I do in the
Yeah.
hospital. I'm on the other side.
Thank you very much.
I'm a mercenary.
What are they watching?
But if I'm this
What
really
are they,
still, I don't do
what
it.
aspects are they watching?
How many patients I'm seeing, what level, how much service I'm providing. Stress tests, echocardiograms, consultations, hospital visits, office
So it's
visits.
geared towards
And what we call in Colombia, calls it these Litzman visits. When somebody sits down with you, says, should I take aspirin before this year? We have a couple of minutes to schmooze. So Colombia has hospital visits, critical care visits, office visits, and Litzman visits.
Like how-
That's what they call a Litzman visit.
If you're at a wedding, you're answering somebody a question, you gotta charge them legally?
If Colombia would know about it, they'd be very angry at me. They don't even let me accept insurance. They say, how do you have a right to accept someone's insurance? It's not your money, you're our employee. You're an assembly, it's our money. It's actually not wrong, I guess.
Where?
In the office, I work for Columbia. I'm employed at Columbia University. I work for that big dark force.
So when you answer me the question right now, you have to send me, if that's
I
before
will
insurance.
probably send you a bill.
Moshe, how you doing?
It will be Chabad miscellaneous expenses. Chabad miscellaneous.
Oh, but
It's in the Spheros.
to look at, portable chest X-rays that are ordered when there are valid results to be looked at,
Yeah.
because the resident just wants to.
Yeah,
whatever.
they mitch
That
you.
stuff.
Your salary can be cut if you don't have this many RVUs. RVUs basically is like the currency of the service I'm doing. Seeing you, if you have
Relative value
if you have a high blood pressure, let's say, and you come back for a visit 3 months after medicine, it can take me a very short time to understand the medicine makes sense. Your blood pressure is good. You feel oshkoya. That's a low-level service in terms of relative value units. The amount of time, effort, thought, complexity that I spend on free that day. But if you come Khalil with something more serious, and I have to be at your bedside, and I have a few options to choose from, I can do this medicine or that medicine, this test or that test. I can choose yes to operate, not to operate. That's a higher level service, and we code it. We see patients based on the complexity of the service we offer. So that'll be more RVUs, which is relative value units, and they're monitoring how many relatively. Say if you want to just see guys with stable blood pressure, just make sure you see 35 of them a day. If you're going to see guys who have complex things, heart attacks, maybe need this, maybe that, then you might see just 18 of them a day because there'll be the same number of sahakal relative value units. But if your relative value units fall below a certain level, you're going to dock your salary because you're not productive.
That's what they're doing with
Patient
childbirth.
care.
They're doing with us.
That's what they're doing with childbirth. They're putting babies in intensive care because they have a certain quota that they want to meet every year, and they
You
put it
sound like
every month, and they put it in,
geared towards
even when they don't need it.
Yeah, it is geared that way. They've turned into big bean counters. They've just
Not
turned
too
into
bad.
big bean
Yeah.
counters. It's unfortunate.
Could you have a private?
When I went there to medical school, it was like the ivory tower, and it's still that way. They still act that way. Business.
It's too difficult to have a private practice, and
Yes,
with
it's
what you do,
too,
you
those
need too
days,
much.
that's over. Those
Yeah.
days are over.
Like I said, my practice is absolutely private, and nobody can.
I mean, if I talk to Rob Litzman, if Columbia's listening, I'm real trouble.
I didn't mean to upset you. What's the issue?
Good
the original intention of.
I am kidding.
Dr. Michelle. Last time he's asking what he's asking what the issues is. If you ask, you might get charged. He tells what the issues are.
My insurance. And the problem is, this one, this text message, they can't get the link, so they can't get the link this long. Well, within half the day, it's solving problems. But my problem is looking for
We'll make healthcare great again. More people send them in. It's not.
Somebody came up to me that someone came up to me and said, you know, I have my cholesterol. Is it good as medicine? I said, so sorry. The only patient that's I know. I'm supposed to know what it's for. Switching, but right now we have
It's not
My nemesis is that because I have to go on to the
we're using all scripts now. Okay, let's get the show on the road. Right. No, was macht der Mama? Okay. Oh, that's not good. Falls are bad. Falls are really bad.
First they took it to the emergency care, right? I said, you're okay. Complaining, and I said, this one, he said, come to this, just an inline fracture.
Wow, of what bone?
Up here, by the wrist.
Falls are bad.
Baruch Hashem, she came to work yesterday, she says, I gotta go to work.
She does. She got tough boss.
That's it.
Does she have a
Vice President,
fall detection pen?
Yeah, she said, no, she had to catch it. She calls me on the phone, but she's fell. Yeah, she fell. I said, what? I said, why did you press the phone?
Yeah.
She says,
So this one has, the new one has a fall detection.
Right away you
Right away when they see it fall.
look into it.
So you can wear it and keep it.
Yeah.
Record it.
It sees certain.
It
It has to be like I'll send you a link to. Shalom. I'll send you a link to.
Rabbi, pass me a safer. Not yours.
I want to give you mine. It was mine, now it's yours.
Every business patient will answer.
Page 36, we're holding. Good morning, everybody.
Rabbi.
It's good you hit it, man. Say that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'shachal nebedvarah. Page 36. The first column, or Daf Yud Ches Amud Gimel, Yud Ches column 3. He's an artist. No, we're holding the line starts shup. You see shup, B'lashon Yiddish. It's like a little smaller font. In the middle of the page, 36.
Oh, so that's not the what you Haggah?
No, the Haggah was.
Where did I remember at the parentheses start and finish in the Sagah? Just for the book.
The Hagah began on column 2 of page Yud Ches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 lines from the top. There's a parenthesis and it says Hagah.
Oh, I see. And then there's a parenthesis within a parenthesis.
That's within parentheses.
And it ends by Achli Yoski Olam Ezo Gashmi.
And it ends, right, the line starts Ad Kan Hagah.
I see. Okay, sure.
Ad Kan Hagah. Yeah, and then Achli Yos is back to the original mimer. Okay, so a few lines down, almost the middle of the page, the line starts Shup B'Lashon Yiddish. You see, Oilam Magiyim L'mayla Mayla. Okay. So we have reflected on the two types of souls, which sometimes, of course, exist within within one soul as well, different times, different stages, different chapters of life, different situations, different circumstances, different aspects. The soul is not one-dimensional, but generally there's two categories of tzaddikim. One are defined as Levyasans, and the others as Sheir Habars. Levyasan represents those souls whose avodah is primarily internal, concealed, dealing with ruchnius, spirituality, transcendence. It's internal avodah, as he calls it, yichudim, aliyos, and who live really in a world of the waters, meaning submerged completely in the source of life, like the Levyasan. The word Levyasan means hischabrus. There's always a sense of connection, of intimacy from which they will not leave, like fish will not leave from the water in the famous metaphor of Rabbi Akiva and Meseches Brachos. Not only will it not leave the water, it will not even go on top of the water. It will be completely submerged in the water. There's a certain connection that is very, very profound in a visible way. And that's what the Levyasan represents. And the way the movement happens, the movement growth, is like similar to the fish, where fish can cover huge spans of space, of territory within the water, at a tremendous speed. And he says similar, the nimshal as well, just as it is in the metaphor, the movement, the motion of these types of souls, since it's spiritual, since it's ruchnius, so with ein shup, with ein swoop, they can ascend to very high spaces. There's a certain swiftness in their avodah, because it's extremely internal. It's very, very, so the movements are so powerful and the movements are so swift. And that's what he says, that this is very different. It's much different. With tisa achas, with one flight, they can reach to places where the other tzaddikim will not, because they're dealing with physical things, physical reality, which just simply operates in a completely different realm. Just like you can't compare the fish in the water, the amphibious creatures, to those in dry land. So let's see now weiter, further inside. Ve'ein ze klal, you see the line starts shup b'lashon Yiddish. Ve'ein ze klal b'bchinas eslavus u'retichas hadamim k'may avodas hatzadikim haniskeres la'el shebegashmias simcha b'basar simcha b'yayim b'chinas rish b'yesh v'shalheves. It's not in the style, it's not in the fashion of the hislavus, the fire, the passion, the hot blood, the intensity of which characterizes the avodah of the tzaddikim, who focus on the material world, who are dealing much more with material world. That's the arena in which they operate. And here, there's also the joy, but it's the joy with the flesh, and it's the joy with the wine. And flesh and wine represents also spiritually a fire and a passion. Ela adirabbe. This is like amphibious creatures, bekriris hadamim, with cold blood, ubenachas, with a certain serenity, tranquility, quietness. Ubetisa achas, with one flight, magiyim l'mayla mayla, they can reach high, and not very noticeable. It's not dramatic. when the animal in the jungle is pursuing its prey, it's very dramatic. You could see the fire in the eyes of the cheetah, and the eyes of the tiger, and the eyes of the lioness. Lahavdil. The dog, there's something very quiet about it, even though it's a pretty action-oriented place. But when we look at it, you look at the fish, there's like a certain, what's called anachas. There's no, you don't see a lot. On the external level, doesn't look like. There is a lot going on, but it's in a different realm. And the nimshal for that is that there are creatures, there are souls that operate in that space, like under the water, beneath the radar. And the movements are very, very huge. But it's all bepnimius. The Balatanya says, this is maybe the most important line of the Maimer, V'i efshe levaya dover ze b'dibur. Eich u'mahu. There's no way to explain this through words. Eich, how, and what it is. So even though he's explaining, he says at the end, this was of course said, this wasn't written. It was written from what was said. So he said, you can't be a mavaya b'dibur eichamau, meaning that words will ultimately not capture what we're really addressing. V'lachein, and as a result of that, as a result of that, despite the miracles, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai did not have to fulfill in the cave many of the aspects of the mitzvahs that you need maisa, you need action. So you could say, well, he didn't have them. So he says, that's not the pshat. The pshat is, Ela hakol beruchnius. He fulfilled the mitzvahs, but not physically. All on a spiritual level. L'mayla mebchinas simcha b'basar. So yes, it comes Shabbos and Yom Tov, you have to make kiddush on wine. I can't make kiddush beruchnius. The Takanas Chazal was to make kiddush, or even midayraisa, according to some shittas, it's a machlokes. If the wine is midayraisa, most say it's midirabanan, but kiddush is minatayra, but the wine is not necessarily minatayra. Okay, but that's a separate chaklavatayra. If you need wine minatayra, you don't need wine. According to most poskim, you don't need wine. You mekadosh, you do kiddush verbally, but there's many mitzvahs, whether it's midirabanan or minatayra, they obviously couldn't do. So the simcha bebasa and the yayin wasn't there. In the Meira there was boksa, there was a carob tree, It grew for him, right? Otaza could have grown for him also. Yeah. Chitim sheyardu ba'avim. Yeah.
In this philosophic system, does this have anything to do with what the Avos did before Matan?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we spoke about it. Yeah.
What do you need the box
for Tu B'Shvat. A minig? You don't miss a minig. A minig comes to Mesoida. Your mother's going to kill you. You don't need bucks of Tu B'Shvat. Your mother will have your head. What's meant to? No, it says that it was created. The Gemara in Shabbos says a spring of water. Well, on a practical level, that was to physically live. He wasn't on a shama beyond the guf. There's still an achila ursiyah. Especially we spoke about what the kavanah of achila is, what drinking and drinking. We spoke in the Maimah of Parshas Tzav, v'achaltam ocha, about the whole food chain and food web spiritually. So,
all the time that the body that's in the earth is the opposite.
Is death.
And I seem to remember that they didn't have to preserve their clothes and they covered themselves.
He was in the earth. Very good. That's a very good ha'ara. Rashbi in the cave was similar to a fish in water in the sense that he was mamish in the earth till the Gemara says till above the shoulders. They didn't have clothes. They were mamish in the earth, which is how his skin was affected. His skin was affected, and when he came to Reb Pinchas, when he left after 13 years, he came to see his father-in-law, Reb Pinchas ben Yair, right? And Reb Pinchas ben Yair saw his son-in-law, and he started to cry. He started to cry, and the tears came down on his body. And Reb Shimon ben Yochai was extremely,
Right.
because of all the years, it was extremely dry, yeah. And he said, Oi, what's the lashon there?
Why did I see you like this, right?
Oi li shiri isicha bekach. Oi li, woe to me shiri isicha bekach. So Rabbi said, woe if you didn't see me this way. The Gemara says that before, every question he can answer 12 answers, and now every question he answered 24 answers. In other words, right? 24 answers, yeah? Shabbos Lamed Gimel, right there. Like the boxer tree. Usually the Gemara that you're looking for is never here. So you're saying an interesting aura that he was in the earth, which is usually a sign of after 120 years, right? Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, yeah. Israchish Nissa, Ivrelu Charuva ve'ena demaya. It was a miracle. There was a charuv, a carob tree, and a ena demaya, and a spring of water. They sat till their necks in sand. They would daven, the Gemara says, 12 years, and then the 13th year. After 13 years, they come out, Agan Samaisim, and Zachar, and Shomer. So there's an interesting piece here. When Pinchas ben Yair, his father-in-law, hears about it, he comes to see him. He goes to greet him. And the Pinchas ben Yair sees that because of the sand, so many years, so there was, like Rashi says, tzedakah, like I guess wrinkles or cracks, shriveled the skin from the sand. 13 years in sand. So Hava Kabachi. So Reb Pinchas started to cry. V'kanasru d'moyus einei, and the tears fell. V'kametzavchele. So Reb Shimon ben Yochai started to scream. He started to scream. Rashi says, why did he scream? Rashi says, because the tears are salty. And when they touched the wounds, it was very painful. So he started to scream. Amalai, and he says, Oili shiri sicha bekach. Woe unto me that I see you this way. So Shimon ben Yochai says, Ashrecha shiri sini bekach. You're fortunate that you see me this way. If you would have not seen me this way, you would have not found in me what you have found in me. In the beginning, when Reb Shimon ben Yochai would ask a question, Reb Pinchas ben Yair would answer 12 answers. Now, when Reb Pinchas ben Yair would ask a question, Reb Shimon ben Yochai would answer 24 answers. This is the Maisa. I was at a Siyum Hashas a few weeks ago on Sunday, 2 or 3 weeks ago on Sunday, of a Jew here in Monsey, a Vishnitzer Chassid. His name is Avram David Weiss, who has ALS for many years, and he made a Siyum Hashas. The whole Shas he learned with his eyes on a computer, with Chavrusas who come in every day, and this was his 3rd Siyum Hashas. The whole Shas learned in this state. I visit him. So his wife invited me to the Siyum. It was in Passaic, New Jersey. He was sitting there. You know, he has Lagarics for quite a few years. He was a young man when he got it in his 40s. And he finished the whole Shas in that state. Literally the whole Shas. From Brachas all the way till the end with Chavrusas. And he took tests. It wasn't stam, learning. All with his eyes, of course. That's the only thing that moves, but his head is very clear. And so I was at the Siyum Hashas, so Rabbi Schlesinger, Rabbi Yisrael David Schlesinger, Shlita from Monsey, spoke. So he said over this Gemara, and he said that he always wondered, why didn't Reb Shimon ben Yochai scream for 13 years? If his body was in this situation, probably without tears, it was also quite painful. So punkt when Reb Pinchas ben Yair started to cry, that's when Reb Shimon ben Yochai started to scream. And when Reb Pinchas ben Yair was being empathetic and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry," he says, "What are you sorry for? What are you so sorry?" So he said, I don't know if he heard it from somewhere or he read it somewhere, but he said that perhaps the pshat in the Gemara is when Reb Shimon ben Yochai says, "Oy li sheri sicha bekach, amaloi oy li sheri sicha bekach." Woe unto me that I see you this way. That's what he was saying. That's what Reb Shimon ben Yochai was pained by. He was pained by the fact that Reb Pinchas ben Yair looked at him as though he was like a nebach case. Like, yeah, like, what a debilitated, pathetic creature who went through so much and life has been so miserable and has no life and has no joy and even has no body left. And he looked at him and he felt so bad and he was weeping. And he said, that's what pained Reb Shimon ben Yochai. And Reb Shimon ben Yochai said, no, I'm not a miserable creature, you don't understand. I had an unbelievable time over there. We had an amazing time. Because he really touched a place where the Gashmis, the Kilimantar, obviously being in a pit for 13 years ain't fun. I mean, even being there for 6 hours ain't fun, right? And you're escaping Roman wrath. But because, I guess, he was in the state of Leviathan, so he was submerged in a source. He was submerged in a source, he was in a different consciousness. He said, that's what Reb Shimon ben Yochai was so upset. He was so upset that you look at me and you say, oi. He says, that's not the case. And he applied it to the Baal HaSimcha, which was very moving. So Esther can have an adrasha. Can have an adrasha.
Was that a vart?
Huh? No, I'm just applying it.
Vart, or was that a yisod? You always talk about the difference.
No, it was a fascinating interpretation. Yeah, and that's the idea very well of the Avos, that the Avos observed the whole Torah before it was given, not b'maisa, obviously. So many of the mitzvahs you couldn't observe b'maisa, but the ruchnius of it, right? Like the Zohar says, Yaakov put on tefillin with the sticks and so forth. V'zehu inyan sanpirav shel halavyasan. This is also the concept behind the fins of the Levyasan. Hanikrayim flush federin. Weet was flush federin are? Huh? Fliss. Fliss means like flissik is swift, right? Fleisik, lernen fleisik means to steig with swift. So fliss federin is like the feathers or the wings that allow you to fly. The wings of a fish are, of course, the fins. Rashi says in this week's Parsha Shmini, right, there are two signs of a kosher fish, snapir and kaskesas, fins and scales. So scales protect the fish. Snapir, the fins, snapirim, the fins, Rashi says it's what allows the fish, lashut behen, it swims in them. It's the wings that allow the fish to fly within the water, to go from one space to another place, to another space. Those are the wings of the bird, of the fish, like similar to the wings of the bird. So sampirav shalal levyasan hanikrayim, flis federin are of course feathers, wings, shebehem hushat min hakatzachuli. That is what the levyasan employs in order to swim from one corner of the ocean to the other corner of the sea or the ocean. One side of the planet to the other side of the planet. V'lachein, and therefore the Gemara says, Chazal say, ha'olam kuloi oimed al levyasan. There's a famous expression that the whole world stands on the levyasan. Shemakif kol ha'olam k'noidem b'divrei Razal. The levyasan encompasses the whole world, all the oceans. It's so titanic, it's so big. What's the meaning of this? So the Balatanya is saying what it represents is that the Levyasan, spiritually speaking, he's speaking on the level of Ruchnius, represents those tzaddikim that connect the whole world with the Ein Sof. They are like the link between heaven and earth, because they're always connected to that place of Ruchni, and therefore the whole world stands on the Leviathan. The whole world stands on it, and they encompass the whole world. And they could encompass the whole world because the whole physical world becomes tafel, it becomes batal, legabe, the very deep spiritual connection that these souls have. Ula asid. Now when it comes to the future, halaviyasan yasim ulchamim shir habar. We have now the Kinigia, the circus, the gladiator, that the Chazal speak about in Medrash Rabbi, where the Leviathan is going to wage battle with the wild ox, the untamed wild ox, the Shir Habar, the ox that is outside, the bar is like a wild, untamed, undomesticated. It's bar, it's outside. Right, in Maseches Beitza we have behemoths baisius and behemoths midbarius. There are behemoths that are homey, they're domesticated. Midbarius means they're outside, they don't come home at night. So he says it's going to be a battle with the Shir Habar, v'yishchetenu b'san pirov. And the Medrash Rabbi says the Leviathan is going to slaughter the ox with its fins because of the sharpness of the fins. What does this mean? Kihine, now we go to the other category. Kihine avodas hatzadikim shebchina hashenis nikras shir habar. There's another set of souls with a different type of avodah. And those are called the souls who are defined as shir habar. What's shir habar? Pnei shir mehasmoil. Generally, the face of the ox is on the left side. In the vision of Yecheskel, the face of the lion is on the right, the face of the left is on the face of the ox is on the left. Pnei shir mehasmoil. And every shir down here is a reflection of the pnei shir. Smoil represents gvura. In other words, there is restriction, there is concealment. Ela shehu bar v'zach. But this is not a regular shir, it's a shir habar. And he teaches here bar not only in the outside, like bar, brais on the outside, but bar from the word borur. Mvurur, boirer, right? It's bar, it's clear, it's zach. Miyalabash meharsham yochim kotin kichapayim uvar leivov. Uvar leivov. What's var leivov? We say it Sunday. A pure heart. An oizgeleiter to hearts. A refined heart. A heart that's mavura. So there's a shor, and the shor comes from smoil. But it's bar v'zach.
What's the significance of the small? Why is he emphasizing this?
Because the point here is unlike the Leviathan. The point of smoil is unlike the Leviathan, who is submerged in the source of life, which spiritually means is never ever detached from the divine source. Not only not detached, but there's no identity visible outside of the divine source. That's what Alma Diskasya means. It's completely concealed. What's concealed? The eye is concealed like the fish is concealed in the water, submerged in the water. That's the Leviathan. Always in a state of dvekus. Always in a state of dvekus. Shayra Bar, as we're going to see, are different souls. These are souls that battle. These are souls that live very much within the physical realm where there is a sense of detachment. And that's the difference between Alma de Iskasya and Alma de Isgalia. Alma de Iskasya means there's no sense of I. Alma de Isgalia means there is a sense of I, and now I have to struggle to find God. I have to struggle to find this truth of life. I have to struggle to find my soul. It's a whole completely different Avodah. To purify it, right? So he says it's a shor. It's a behemah, but it's bar, v'zach. And in halacha, there's also a tremendous difference between the amphibious creature and the dry land creature in terms of food. Dagim, Meseches Chulin, those who are learning Meseches Chulin know that the halacha, dagim don't need any shchita. They need what's called asifa. That's how the Gemara learns it out. But Parshas Baloischa, right? V'yasfu lahem dgei hayam. The only thing dagim needs is asifa. You have to take it out of the water, and it's kosher. The dog died this way. It's not neged. There's no nevela. That's la halacha v'payam. There's a discussion about it in the Chazal. But la halacha dogim don't need anything to make it suitable for Jewish consumption. When it comes to a bird, you need shchita at least in one siman between the two vital organs, the kana and the veshet, the food pipe and the windpipe and the food pipe, the esophagus and the trachea. You need shchita at least in one. When it comes to a shor, when it comes to a behemah, like a bull, an ox, a behemah, a sheep, a goat, these domesticated animals that are kosher, and Parsha Shmini, you need with two simanim. The Gemara explains because it's not zotir chayuse, it's not a small chayus, it's an intense chayus. What's the idea of shchita, as we'll soon see? There's a process that's necessary, a very intense process necessary to sublimate it from the min hachai to the min hamidaber, because that's what eating means, sublimating it from the animal species to the human species. So that's the concept that it's a shur, but it's bar v'zach. Kihinei gam avodasim b'gmaisa gashmis, because their avodah, even their avodah within the physical world. Kamai, back to our marshal. V'samachta b'chagecha de yom tov. When it says by yom tov v'samachta b'chagecha, which is just one example of a mitzvah of simcha. So you would think, where is simcha? Simcha is an emotional experience. Simcha is a spiritual experience. Comes the Gemara in Psachim Daf Kuf Tes and tells us, Arvei Psachim ein simcha ela b'basar. No, there's no simcha only through basar. Ve'ein simcha ela b'yayin. Time of the Beis Hamikdash, they were makriv, like you said in the beginning of the Maimer, shalmi simcha and yom tiv, and you ate that, and that's how you were mekayim b'samachta b'chagecha. So he says, what's the pshat of this? Don't see it as literally what the Chazal mean is sheyoichal psar hasher lemalois bitnoi chas v'shalom v'yasis boy. That what's the definition of Simchas Yom Tov? What are you, Dr. Michelle, you could show this to your patients. What's the definition of Simchas Yom Tov? That you eat a lot of steak. That's what we call psar hasher. Better rib steak, and if it's filled with some other stuff, is noch beser. But he didn't know about that at that time. L'malois bitnei chas v'shalom, so that the stomach becomes as full as possible. And his expression on this is chas v'shalom, God forbid. V'yasis boy, and they're not hebt on tanzen. There's an expression, sisu b'nei meyai sisu, right? You clap your stomach and you say, ah. And some other things happen in the process, and you say, this is called a good Yom Tov. He says, that's not what the Chazal mean, ein simcha ela b'basar. That their only way of understanding simcha was with their stick basar. If you're not going to have that, what's simcha? This is called simcha. It's called depression. For this you could starve. What do you have there? Steak? So early in the morning? Yeah. He says that's not the vart. Ella. And not just because it's not just a spirit, it's not a spiritual insight coming from a tzaddik who wasn't so into food. That's also true. But it's also true about simcha. We all know that a person cannot get happy from eating a very, very big meal to the point that they're stuffed because they ate a lot of meat and they can't breathe anymore. It's not a cause of simcha. I've still to meet a person that when you ask them, are you a happy person? A really happy person? And they say, absolutely. I eat steak every night or once a week and I am a happy person. Especially for Jews, I've never seen that work. It's good for a few minutes, but that's not what simcha is. Elamai. So what did the Gemara mean? Ella, the Gemara meant something much deeper. Chinis halois. And the raya for this is, the Gemara says that it's only Bizman Beis HaMikdash Hayakayim when they ate Shalmei Simcha. If it's a shtik basar, what's wrong with basar that's not a karbonas? Now you don't say Simcha basar anymore. Why? What happened? What happened? If it's the basar, basar is basar. Piece of steak is a piece of steak. The pshat is, it's not the basar. Elabchinis haloyas. It was the sublimation of the meat. Ke'inyan shalmei simcha mibasar gashmi. Just like when they brought the karbonas of shlamim, which were called shalmei simcha, in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, from physical flesh, shahayu bizman Beis HaMikdash, shahayu reach nichayach mamish l'Hashem. And he puts in the word mamish. Reach nichayach l'Hashem says in Chumash many times, puts in the word mamish. That why does he put in the word mamish? That the physical basar became a lakus. That's simcha. When you take your basar, when you take your body, when you take your flesh, your physicality, and you align it with the ultimate truth, that's where simcha comes from. And ein simcha ela b'basar means that there's no simcha in this world. When you're living in this world, the only way I could have simcha is if I deal with my basar. If I deal with my basar, if I confront my basar, if I elevate my basar. Because this is who I am. If I ignore my body, I ignore my basar, and my simcha is only coming from mind stuff or spiritual stuff, it's not going to be a permeating, penetrating simcha. Simcha must come from alignment of mind, soul, and body.
So Rabbi couldn't have that simcha. He was deprived of that level of simcha.
In the Maida, yeah, no basar. Which doesn't only mean no physical meat. It means in his own life, he wasn't in a state of basar. He was in a state of levyasa. Of course, relatively speaking, he was still in the physical world. That's why he needed a carob tree and he needed water. But relatively speaking, like the others before Matan Torah, there was no mitzvah to eat basar. They may have eaten basar. He brought for the malachim gimel l'shainas b'chardal, three tongues and mustard. But the mitzvahs weren't defined by the physical world. Why weren't the mitzvahs defined by the physical world? Because their way of relating to Hashem was primarily within a spiritual experience. The mitzvahs begashmis, though, that we have from Matan Torah, most of them deal dafka with gashmis. I give tzedakah with physical money and a physical check, and trumas and maisis with physical grain, and tefillin with the hide of an animal. Why? Let's just meditate in the morning, like many people do meditation. That's not the mitzvah of tefillin. Mitzvah of tefillin, I need the physical hide of an animal and wrap it on my physical arm and on my physical head. The same is true with tzitzis. I need the fleece, the wool of the sheep that I use for tzitzis with the fringes that come down. That's the mitzvah of talis and the mitzvah of tzitzis.
We understand now by the Gemara in Torah is Chad Shalocha.
Yeah.
What the Gemara says. That
Yeah.
in other words, before that, you had the kavanas of the Torah is Chad Shalocha. Now it's
Yeah.
attached itself
Yeah.
to Gashmi.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the mitzvah of tefillah, the mitzvah of Kriya Shema, the mitzvah of Birchas Hamazon, the Gemara says in Brachas, Hirur lav kedibur dami, that's the halacha. Thinking is not like words. I have to articulate it with words. Why? Thinking is much better. You're more involved. The answer is that the physical, concrete manifestation, the Gemara says, Akima svasav hava maisa, the moving of the lips is called maisa in halacha. It's maisa zutta. It's called maisa zutta in halacha. But it's Akima svasav hava maisa. So the articulation verbally of something with the lips is already bringing it down to a more physical space. So ein simcha ela b'basar. A person should not look at their basar and see it as an obstacle to avodas Hashem. The beauty of this is, no, this is not your obstacle. This is your path to avodas Hashem. Never look at your instincts, your appetites, your addictions, your physical cravings that are created because you're a person of flesh and blood, as we say, basar, ashtik basar, right? Ashtik basar. And you look at it as a great obstacle to avodas Hashem, as the great barrier to ruchnius. No. If you're alav yasan, you're alav yasan. But generally we say, ein simcha ela b'basar. The way you're going to achieve simcha, what's simcha? Simcha is the ultimate connection with Hashem. The source of joy, the source of pleasure is ela b'basar. Only by dealing with your basar, by elevating your basar, by working with your basar, by finding the sparks within your basar, by understanding that your flesh is not evil. That even though you look at yourself or you're even called a behemoth, that behemoth is your precious cargo, because that is what becomes the reach nichayach l'Hashem. God wants your behemoth. The behemoth is, that's what he says, reich nichayach mamash l'Hashem. It's not a joke that they took the fat of the carbon, they put it on the mizbeach, and weitergegangen. Reich nichayach, it becomes elikus. It becomes elikus. The shoyer becomes a shtik gatlichkeit. Reich nichayach, Hashem says, what a pleasant, beautiful aroma. What's pshat, a beautiful aroma? It was the smell of the basar. It means that there's nothing like the tainug of the halah of gashmis. That's the vart, the moededike vart. There's no smell as pleasing as the smell, the reach of the halah, of the sublimation of the gashmi to the ruchni. So what we look often as the gashmi, and it's a struggle, and if I wouldn't have to deal with it, I would be much better off. And these are, every person in their own life, you have your appetites, your instincts, your cravings, your addictions, your temper, your midos, that all come from the basar. Pnei sharmei asmal. It's the behemoth in me, whether I have a domesticated animal, some of us have an undomesticated animal within us. And that often becomes a tremendous source of distraction. And it's not talking necessarily, some people it's about aggression, other people it's about insecurities. You know, some of us are dealing with big bulls that we have to deal with horns. It's called shir hamuads. And some of us are shir tams, right? And some of us have other issues. We're like ants. We're little ants. Or we're little animals, scared, frightened. Whatever the issue is, I have my basar to deal with. And my simcha is going to come ela b'basar, only through the halah, through the working with the basar. And that could become a reich nechayach l'Hashem. And that's what we mean when we speak about the souls of Shir Habar and Simcha B'Basa. He says, not Pshat, I filled up my stomach with meat and I walk around and say, wow, this was a good Yom Tov meal.
Shore bar seems to be like it's a wild shore by
Exactly.
right? But on the Mizbech, we bring only the mysticated animals. We don't bring the Hashem, right? Only the mysticated animals.
Why? Any shire, I mean, if it was a shire, it was kosher for a carbon.
Can we bring bison as a korban?
Why not?
Deer, bison.
Deer not.
Deer not.
Deer is a different species.
But bison is. Sure.
There's 3 categories of animals that were mutter, which was a shire, an ox, and a kevis, a sheep, and a goat. With all the age, you had a calf, and a cow, and an ox, and a ram, and an older goat, a younger goat. But it's all those 3 species, and then you had a few types of birds, the tur and the bnei yonah. Basically, only 5 types of living species were allowed as karbanos. Only 5 types.
I thought wild shores,
Well, practically, if it's a problem, I mean, obviously, usually they were domesticated. But in terms of qualities of kashrus, it's fine, yeah?
If the simcha is only coming from subjugating the basar to...
I didn't use the word subjugating, by the way, yeah?
But coming with
Sometimes you got to subjugate too, but just...
coming
No, subjugating is good if it's a tool to sublimate.
Explain
Very
some-
important.
explain some of it.
This is from Kiyas Yoel English. It's not for you.
my question is, if the
Subjugate means to be to dominate, like to control, like you subjugate Iskafia. Ah, jetzt verstehst du. And it's a Yiddish. And sublimate is Ishapcha. Verstehst? Yeah. So you need medaf Iskafia. Medaf Iskafia.
if the simcha is only coming from the sublimation of
Yes.
the basar,
Yeah.
why is it only a yom tov and not like every day of the year?
Well, Simcha is Negeya every day of the year. We say every morning, Ivdu es Hashem b'Simcha, and Avodas Hashem is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So somebody once interviewed me on a radio show, and he tried to prove to me that Reb Nachman of Breslov was the one who invented the idea that you have to be always b'Simcha. Mitzvah Gedola, it's a Breslov concept. I said, ich weiß nicht. Reb Nachman of Breslov spoke a lot about Simcha, but if I'm not mistaken, there's a pasuk, Ivdu es Hashem b'Simcha, in Tehillim, which is a little before Breslov, and we say it every morning in davening, and it's a kapitel Tehillim. And the David HaMelech believed that Avodas Hashem is not once a year. Avodas Hashem is by Simcha. Avodas Hashem is when? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Rambam says at the end of Hilchas Lulav, the last halacha, the Rambam says, Hasimcha sheyismach ha'adam b'asiyas ha'mitzvahs u'b'avodas ha'kel is avodah gdoila b'ma'od. And he said it's one of the greatest avodas there are. This is a Rambam. The Rambam was also before Breslov. Not only that, the Rambam teaches in the Teichach of Parshas Kisavoy. What's the whole Teichach? Tachas ha'shaloy avadetos Hashem alekecha b'simcha u'v'tuv leivav me'roiv kol. Rashi teaches taka different. You didn't serve Hashem in good times. But the Rambam teaches tach levad Hashem, why? You served God. But it was with depression, with melancholy. So shver zu sein a Yid, right? He used to say. So shver zu sein a Yid.
So what's different on Yom Tov?
Oh, so that's my point. So when we speak about Yom Tov is just there's times of the year that we celebrate a certain quality. But the point is it should have our shpah for a whole year. Pesach is Yitzias Mitzrayim. But every day you mention Yitzias Mitzrayim. Shavuos is Matan Torah, but every day you learn Torah. Right? That's why you're here. You understand the point? So yes, there's certain moments. Yom Kippur is tshuva, but tshuva is not only Yom Kippur. Every day is tshuva. Every day a dude should do tshuva. Gemara says kol yom halav, kol yom of b'tshuva. So Mela, this is the avodah of the simcha. V'al derech zeh hu simcha b'psar yom tiv. So even the part you could say, okay, that's the part that goes up on the mizbeach, but there's a part that a person is eating. He says enochinami. There's a part that a person is eating. But it's the same nekuda. Kamar shekasuv. That's what we say in davening. What's the lashon in Shemona Esrei? V'yismechu v'cha kol Yisrael mekadosh shmecha. The simcha doesn't come from steak. The simcha comes v'yismechu v'cha kol Yisrael mekadosh shmecha. L'chayr it's a stira. By davening, you say the simcha is in you. And by the meal, you say the simcha is from the chaluptzos, from the stuffed cabbage. Chaluptzos, you know what they are, Reb Nuchem?
Yes.
I didn't know for many years, because I didn't grow up this. But I learned. So what do we say by davening? Stuffed cabbage. Stuffed cabbage. You know the stuffed cabbage with the meat inside? Yeah. So what do we say by davening? They should rejoice in you, because all simcha comes from v'yismechu v'cha. When you could connect with your true inner core, and the true inner core of reality, there's simcha. Then things are open, there's transparency. The basar is not a stira to v'yismechu v'cha, that's the nekuda, b'cha daika. Elo shaloshem bakasha. Today we saw it as a bakasha v'yismechu, it should be mneshacharav beis mikdashenu. And as a result of that, there's no shalmei simcha, meaning this is a great challenge to be able to be maila, elevate the basar on that level. V'zeh nikra shor habar. This avodah is called shor habar, mipnei miloshin bar levav, from Tehillim. Right? Miyala bar Hashem, who's going to come up to the mountain of God? Neki chapayim, you have to have clean hands, ubar levav, and a pure heart. Like we say Yom Tif and Shabbos, v'taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. V'taher libeinu. When you say these words, Trachstam over in the Verte, v'taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. Reb Shalom. V'taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. We ask the Rebbeinu Shalom, my heart should be pure, bar levav. There shouldn't be politics in my heart, corruption in my heart, manipulation in my heart, entanglement, lies, deception. It shouldn't be a crooked heart. It should be a pure heart, arena hearts. V'taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. That's what a Jew asks for. Shabbos and Yom Tov. Bar levav, pirish, basar zach ubar. The basar, the shor, the ox, is refined and pure. The hainu, what's pshat, simcha l'Hashem anoyled mizeh b'rishpei eish v'islavos. Shor habar means the simcha that's born from the basar. And what type of simcha is it? It's always one of fire and passion, because that's what an animal is about. What characterizes animals is passion. Right? As the Balatanya often says, you see passion in animals much more than in people. Right? If you ever you go to the jungle, or you see documentaries of the jungle, the passion, that look in the eyes when they're pursuing their prey, or whatever they're doing, there's just a certain explosion of emotion and intensity. That intensity, it's obviously animalistic. They focus on one thing, self-preservation. That's their focus. Self-preservation, and you got to propagate the species, got to be there for the kinderlach, right? And they help their environment in their own way. They increase the balance of the ecosystem. Those are the three agendas of every animal. They don't have other agendas. Self-preservation, feed the kids and protect them, and do what you got to do to protect your environment. If we would only have those three agendas, we wouldn't be so bad off. Problem is we have meshugana dreams, huh? Yeah, we do get their characteristics by eating their basar, which is according to many of the Mefarshim, Rishonim, and Acharonim. The Abarbanel speaks about it, the Maharal, and many others, the Klayakar. The reason for Simone Kashrus, according to them, and there's different interpretations, but one of them is because we are what we eat, and that's not only a cliche. And we know today, everybody knows how much food affects them within a few minutes. You even know it from your moods, right? I know if I eat a piece of cake in the morning, a little piece male, if I eat a bigger piece of cake in the morning, I'm in a depression around 8 minutes later. If I eat it in the afternoon, I'm also in a depression. But it's not like in the morning. In the evening, yeah, can get schlafen. So we know that, and it's not a mystical thing. It's very practical, because our bloodstream, our physiological makeup is so deeply affected by the food we eat. So yeah, according to Torah, the food we eat affects our characteristics. It affects our chemicals, our makeup. It affects our neuron. It literally affects our makeup. Huh? What? And yet we're not vegetarians. We're not vegetarians, and that's what we're saying, Ein simcha ela b'basar. That in this world I have to deal with my basar. And that's a very important yesod. The Baal Shem Tov once said, Parshas Mishpatim, a hafla de kavart. And it's a paradigm shift for many people. It could be a paradigm shift. Baal Shem Tov said, Ki sireh chamor soinacha, roivitz tachas masai, v'chadalta me'azoiv loi, azoiv tazav imoi. You see the donkey of your enemy crouching under its burden, and it's your enemy. So what do you say? Have a good day. Baruch Hashem, God is paying you back. V'chadalta me'azoiv loi. Why should I help him? I have busy things to do. So it's an isser, azoiv tazav imoi. You have to go and help him take off the burdens from the donkey, let the donkey stand up, even though the man who owns the donkey is your enemy.
Your time is not on the donkey, it's on the man.
Yeah, it's hard to hate a donkey. I mean, unless you're really, unless you're a donkey maybe yourself, yeah. The Gemara in Psachim, Kuf Yud Gimel wants to know, what do you mean you hate someone? Why do you hate somebody? The Gemara wondered, why is he your son? The Gemara had a hard time understanding. Why do you hate somebody? And you know what the Gemara answers, yeah? Because you saw that he's over Avedas. And you can't say to bed, Bezdin can't take care of it because there's no Aedis, whatever. I got some ice over there. The Gemara finds a way. It's an Arvei Psachim, we're going to get there soon. Be'ezer Hashem. Al Kol Panim, so the Baal Shem Tov said like this. Ki sireh chamor is the same letters like chomer. When you're going to see your own chomer, your own physicality, and you're going to discover soinacha. Sometimes it's the greatest enemy of your soul. You want to daven, and the body says, no, let's go to sleep. You want to come learn in the morning, the body says, let's go to sleep. Soinacha. It hates your neshama. So what do you say? Roivitz tachas masoi. Hashem gave the goof a burden. He's not interested. He crouches, I'm not interested. Take your burden and give it to somebody else. The oil atoid is not for me. Roivitz tachas masai. I don't want to go with it. Roivitz, I crouch. You know when you roivitz, you become a couch potato, literally. A crouch potato. Roivitz tachas masai. V'chadalta me'azoivle. So there's a derech in Yiddishkeit. What do? You crush the body. This was known as the derech of Tinius and Sigufim. By great people. It's not a derech of small people. Tinius and Sigufim meant there were people that a whole year they would crush their body. It was basically like mamash, take a slave, like they did in the South, unfortunately, and beat him till he has no opinion. Yeah. Like some people do in marriages and with employees. You take away from them any personality. Some people do it with children. I crush you completely until you don't have an opinion, and then you're a wonderful, wonderful person, yeah? Like the t-shirt, I'm very easy to get along with once you learn to worship me. As long as you worship me, I'm very easy. I'm the best boss in the world. Just don't have another opinion, and then we're good. So there was such a derech with the guf. You take the guf, and after a while, it gets the message. People do it with their animals. They do it with their puppies. They do it with their elephants in the circuses. They would beat them. Animals get the message. I don't want to be beaten. So what happens? I shut my mouth. To the point that the guf, you let it survive because you need it. But that's it. Another derech is, I'm adding now, another derech is, because the Baal Shem Tov was talking about serious avoida. There were Chasidei Ashkenaz. Tinius and Segufim was a serious thing. Chafal Fader.
They say that he fasted two times 7 years.
The Melech. There's another inyan, and I think this is more what people understand today. V'chadalta me'azoivloi means you ignore your guf. It's not part of the equation. And Jews are very good at this, because Jews, Baruch Hashem, have good minds, at least many of them. So you retreat in your minds. I grew up in a yeshiva, yeah? I don't remember even one teacher ever saying you have to take care of your body. The main thing was the mind, learn. And it produced some great scholars, Talmidei Chachamim. But in terms of physical awareness, oh my God. Where does the guf come in? The guf is stam. It's a nuisance. Yeah, you got to deal. So you see cake, you eat. Whatever you do, you got to do. But it's not integrated. So Baal Shem Tov says, this is how he finishes. He says, Loi bezu haderech yishken oir ha-Torah. Kiyim azoiv tazoiv imoy lahalois ha-saguf u'levareroi u'lezachecha. Not in this way will the light of Torah dwell in you. Azoiv tazoiv imoy. You have to pick up the chamor. You have to lift up the chamor. Not become a victim of the superficiality of the guf. But really the guf is waiting for birur. It's waiting for zichuch. That's called Shor Habar. That's called Bar V'Zach. Yeah.
Baal Shem Tov was endorsing good health. No?
He wasn't. The Baal Shem Tov wasn't only endorsing good health. He was saying something much deeper. He was saying that in the ultimate vision of Judaism, the spiritual and the physical must be perfectly aligned. That's what he was saying. Not only endorsing good health. Everybody endorses good health. It says, "V'nishmartem oed l'nafshei seichem." You're not allowed to harm your body. He was saying something much deeper than that. He was saying that in the ultimate vision of Judaism, God is not about heaven. You understand? It's about a complete alignment between the two. Like everything, it has to be with balance and delicate. You have to be delicate because there's also the opposite approach, where a person becomes completely body conscious as nothing else. You know, the body can become an avodah zarah. For some people, the body is an avodah zarah. It becomes literally an idol. And Gashmis becomes an avodah zarah. Then it's the exact opposite of what he was saying. That's what we mean by Shor Habar, to be mezachichet. Yeah.
You're born a Leviathan is born that way. You're not. So you need to.
Perhaps a Leviathan is born that way, or there's certain people that are maybe inclined to it. And even within every soul, there's moments of Leviathan, there's experience of Leviathan. But generally speaking, most souls are in the b'chin of Shor Habar. That's what it seems like.
You're not intended to change.
You're not intended,
That's
no.
what the
Yeah.
Baal Shem Tov was-
Right. Yeah, he's talking, When we say tzaddikim here, we're talking about every Jew. He uses the word tzaddikim because he's speaking about the Jew who maximizes his calling. When we hear, it's another mistake. When people read in Sifarim of Chassidus, Noam Elimelech, it's called Sifran Shel Tzaddikim. When they read the word tzaddikim, it's right away they think about the Ribnitzer Rebbe. Yeah? And they miss the whole point. The Ribnitzer Rebbe was a very big tzaddik. But when it says in this one, the word tzaddikim, it's talking about you. It's talking about you. If it's not talking about you, you're missing the point. It's talking about you in your full potential. Am I going to be a tzaddik like that tzaddik? I can't be a tzaddik like that tzaddik, but I can be a tzaddik like me. like Reb Zusha said, like his brother said, yeah? Like Reb Zusha said. They're not going to ask me why I'm not Moshe or Avram. I'm not Moshe or Avram. But why are you not Zusha? So when we say the word tzaddik, what it just means is somebody who lives up to his ultimate potential. Yes, there are the tzaddikim who embody that in a very powerful way to inspire many others. But don't detach yourself from the word tzaddik, because then you're missing the point. Verstehst? B'stoichat tzaddik. Your mother was right. B'stoichat tzaddik. That's what we struggle with. Some people called us behemoths, and others called us tzaddikim. So in this Maimon, the Baal Tanya is trying to make peace between the two. That what your mother called you and what your teacher called you, they really meant the same thing. Just your mother used the word tzaddik, and your teacher used the word behemoth. And some teachers use the word chaya. Yeah. Just synonyms, right? I had a teacher once, he turned to the class, he was upset, and he said, I'm greater than the Maharal. This is where I get my self-confidence. He said, I'm greater than the Maharal. The Maharal had one goylem, and I have 19 goylams. And he says he's even greater. The Maharal's goylem didn't speak, and my goylams all speak. See, we also had brilliant pedagogues by us. You're not the only one who had brilliant pedagogues. Huh? Who, a goylem?
No.
Okay, so let's finish here the few lines. Ella, sha'afal pikei, despite this, milse zutra sehi, legabi hiluch hanifla shel hatzadikim hanikroim levios. It's half live a fella. Despite this tremendous avodah, it's considered small, legabi the wondrous movement of the leviosans. You can't compare this growth and this growth. Because here all the growth is coming from a gashmi, which is finite. Mashenkin ha'ihiluch shalahem, their motion, shebetisa achas, bekridis or benachas, magiyim l'mayla mayla shigdoyla yoysa ein kates. With them, one flight, which is cold, and nachas, serene, they reach tremendous heights. So it's infinitely higher than the first avodah. The first avodah, I'm dealing with basar. Because I'm dealing with basar, everything is pamelech, pavolia. You're dealing by definition with something that's a balgvul. So the growth is incremental. The growth is slow. It's step by step. Because you're struggling. The Levyasan, shah still, quiet, serenity. There's no fire because we spoke about what creates noise? Friction. What creates passion? Overcoming something. That's what creates passion. You're excited because, wow, it's new, it's different, it's novel. When you're completely submerged in the source, shah still, quiet, complete serenity. And in that, the Levyasan can fly madregas that are completely shaloi ba'erech, the tzaddikim of Sher Habar. You can't even compare. Here the growth is b'davar gashmi balgvul. And if you want a mashal for this mashal comes from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, it's the chess game. Life is a chess game, and you have the queen, and you have the bishop, and you have the knight, and you have the castle, and then you have the pawn. Right? So the king represents Hashem. The queen represents Knesset Yisrael in its source, Malchus, which is the feminine part of the king. Then you have Srafim, Chayos, Vayfanei HaKodesh, 3 levels of Malachim, Bria Yitzirasiya, which fly around like the birds fly, Oifya Oifiv, like the dogim fly with the wings. And you have, it's represented in the knight, and the horse, and in the castle, and in the bishop. And then you have the neshama down here in a guf is a pawn. Step by step by step. You can't skip. You can't skip. You go one step and you get knocked off right, left, and center. From there. You can't fly over things. You're not a flyer. You're a walker. You're a mahalach. Steady. You can't also go diagonal and jump here and jump here and go this way and that way. Step by step through the board of life. You're also short. You're small. You're in the front lines of the battle. There's a lot of you, and you get knocked off constantly. Nobody gets knocked off like the pawn. And it's incremental. But, there's a but. When you get to the other side, you become a queen. The castle can't become a queen. Or anything you want. Till a queen. So he says, the king not, said in Yiddish, a kenig is done nar eine. The kenig is done. But the queen, which is one with the king, intimacy, the Rebbe said this at a Fabrengen on Shabbos. Sitting in the crowd was a man named Sam Reshevsky. Sam Reshevsky was one of the top chess champions of America on Bobby Fischer level. And he played tournaments with the Soviets in the early 1950s. Tournaments with the Soviets, when then the Soviet Union and America, was Levyasan with the Sher Habar, not only with tzaddikim, but it was a gladiator. So he played against Russia, Sam Reshevsky, and he once came Fabrengen Shabbos to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So the Rebbe did a whole sikha about chess, and Avodas Hashem, and he went. He was playing then, I think, a tournament before this in the Soviet Union. I'll call upon him. What's the point here? You can't compare the two types of avodas. The Levyasan flit, and here it's a completely different mahalach, because you're encumbered, you're obstructed, because even with this aliyas, but it's coming from a gashmi, it's coming from a gvul. That's the arena in which you're dealing with. You're dealing in an arena of gvul. So that's why the Levyasan is going to shech the Sher Habar. What does this represent? So this we'll see weiter. Okay. Ein Simcha lebasar. Kannst du alles bringen the basar? Reb Shalom, hast du gemacht bringen basar ein bisschen.
When a person is stronger, is addiction. When a person is stronger than his addictions, it's the greatest simcha.
Yeah, the greatest simcha is when you're stronger than your addictions.
Being stronger regardless.
Very good. Being sober regardless. Bassa being sober regardless. Gewaldig.
If you're eating a piece of food or something that's not good for you, how can you conceptually make a bracha on it? You're saying that the bracha is bringing up the goodness of it, but
You shouldn't eat it then.
correct.
If you're really going to make a bracha, then you're probably, and the bracha is real, you're probably not going to eat food that's not good for you. I shouldn't speak, but that's probably the truth. The Baal HaTanya was once talking about the Arba Avos Nezikin. What's the Arba Avos Nezikin? Hashoir, Haboir, Hamave, V'Ahever. The first Mishnah of Baba Kama describes 4 archetypes of damagers. Your ox, your animal. It could be a bull, it could be a dog, it could be a ape. Boir is a hazard, right? You dig a pit. You leave a suitcase in the airport and people trip over it. Hamave is not clear. Heve is fire, right? You send out a virus to other computers. It's Heve. You light a fire and safart. What's Mave? So the Gemara argues there's 2 shittas. Mave Adam or Mave is Shane. Adam means a person damages, yeah? Somebody punches you in your nose, somebody breaks your glasses. That's Adam Amazik. And Shane is the tooth of an animal. Basically, you send an animal to somebody's field, goes and eats up his tomatoes, grapes. You have to pay for it. Yeah. So he was explaining all the Avos Nezikin. So it says in Arizal that wasn't connected to Yutke Vavke, which is very strange. What's the shaykhs? So he was explaining all the 4 in a person's avodah. Yeah, so he said what the shoyd is, what the boyd is. Very interesting. What mav is, what hever is. Very different forms of nezikah. The nezek of shoyd is aggression. Yeah. The nezek of boyd is depression. The opposite, depression. You're just like an empty pit. There's nothing here. That's the nezek of boyd. Yeah. Nezek of hever is anger, temper. Then they spoke about the nezek of mava. So the nezek of adam is, it's coming from your intelligence. You think you're better than other people, and you can manipulate them. Then they asked about him, what's shane? So this is his definition. He said, macht a bracha, und noch esst sich. He makes a bracha, nonetheless, he can just eat like an animal. He says that's the hezek of shane. He makes a bracha. You just said Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. Wie esst sich also? He says, macht a bracha, und danach esst sich. Huh? The macht a bracha, wie esst sich? The herst? Esst sich. In other words, you know, there's a niggin essen, estzich. This niggin was made for the shane of the Baal HaTanya. So estzich. He wasn't complaining that a person eats. You have to eat. So estzich. Yeah, I become the food. The food doesn't become me. That's the difference. There's 2 ways of eating. The food becomes me, or I become the food. Yeah. If you make a real bracha and you're there and the food is not good, you're not going to eat it. I mean, you have to eat something because you made a bracha. No, I'm in Chicago. Next week, 2 days I'm away. Wednesday and Thursday I'm in Europe. Next week, Nochem. Say that? That's next week, Wednesday and Thursday. Ah? Next Shabbos, not this Shabbos. No. It could be, I'll look. What's the schedule? Oh, this Sunday I'm not here. Okay. It's Teufels Gewehr.